Okay, cool. This is an introduction to the soils at Beaumont, and here we've got a beautiful piece of our shale soils, and that has just had an old vineyard removed from it. It was last prepared and for new vineyards in 1995, and we've just taken out the Cabernet and the Merlot that was planted here, and we're looking at what to do with the soil, how it's looking, what the profile is, and then what to prepare it, how to prepare it for the new vineyards that we will plant in here. So this is a great time to look at what shale soils are all about and how they're made up. We've dug a hole. You can, when we have a look into the hole, we can see here the different layers of soil. Up until about here, there's about 30 centimeters. That's pretty typical for shale soils here in Bokkeveld. And on our farm, you've got the kind of loose, gravelly, shaly topsoil. With a bit of sand, some rock, some broken down shale. It's very soft, and as it gets a bit darker as you go up, where the organic material is at a higher level. Here you've got some old vine roots, and you can see quite clearly the vine roots have not penetrated much below this layer. And that's really because shales are duplex soils, so they're made up of two layers. And the topsoil, top layer is 30 centimeters. It can go up to about 80 to 100 centimeters deep, but below that is always a kind of a clay layer, and this layer of clay exists in different forms on different parts of the farm. This part is red, so it's got a bit more iron in it. It's got whole pieces of shale still. It's pretty friable. It's pretty good for root penetration still, and for the roots to get some moisture in the summer. And then as you go down, it gets kind of lighter, more light yellow, and then almost like a white, bluey kind of shell right down the bottom down here. Where the water table is much higher, it's much more solid rock still, very soft, very pliable, which is typical of shale. That's what, you know, it eventually becomes clay, or but it's very yeah, as it weathers, it breaks down into clay. You get a great example of how soft it is just in my hand. It's obviously in the middle of winter, and the soil is super wet. We've had lots of rain, which has penetrated right down into this rock. So if one is preparing soil like this for new plantings, basically you want to try and create as much depth in the soil, and that we do by putting a big caterpillar tractor through with a tooth behind it, a ripper tooth, and we'll pull down the slope to create channels of drainage in this clay. So it'll drop the topsoil down into these gaps and allow the soil to kind of, or it'll create a kind of a fake level depth, extra depth. This is actually where possibly, no, it's not. But yeah, so we want to create a bit more depth and drainage out of the soils to stop the roots from getting waterlogged. And so we'll rip down the slope like this and create the drainage, and then we'll cross rip the rest of the soil to mix the topsoil with a bit of the shale. We won't go as deep. The most important thing with soils like this is really to add a bit of lime and some gypsum, and that's to fix the pH a little bit and to help the microorganisms and the roots develop in a healthy conditions. These soils are quite acidic. They also have quite high salt content, so they tend to need quite a bit of gypsum just to leach that salt out, and to help with the pH we put in a bit of lime, and then when we've done that, we'll mix it and try and mix that lime and gypsum into the soil, and then create the drainage at the same time, and hopefully, yeah, get a beautiful deep soil that will support the next vineyard block here. But I'm not sure what it is yet. This is the warmer side of the farm, so it's a full west-facing slope, and it gets quite a lot of heat in the summer. So we look at probably some red varieties, or maybe changing the row direction just to help cool the vineyard down, and yeah, just maximize this the potential of this beautiful soil. So you can see the lots of rock, lots of shale, and you can see the roots here. There's a big clump where the roots have kind of properly logged into the clay and have developed around it. They've obviously used this as their main water source when it starts to dry out. But you can see they penetrate there, and that's really the critical thing of these kind of soils, is to prepare them properly. They're beautifully soft in the summer, in the winter when they're full of water, but in the summer they dry out and become quite hard and really tough to get into. So the roots need to move in early spring down into the soils, and you've got to, with young vineyards, very important not to drive on them, not to compact them too soon, otherwise you'll never get your root development done properly. So this is Beaumont. We call it Bokkeveld shale. It's the particular type of shale that we find here, and I think this is what contributes to our unique style and taste of wines just from the roots up.